Oh, hey, goodness, goodness to you. I'm Sporty King, and I say goodness because I don't know whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening that you're watching the broadcast. But isn't it wonderful to have good in front of whatever you're doing? So goodness to you. Yeah. Look, Sporty King here, and welcome to Glue Wednesday. Glue Wednesday is actually created in 2017, and I created because so often people said that Wednesday was hump day. And I said, well, Wednesday is actually the middle of a 7 day week that keeps the week beginning and the week end together. So it's the glue, and that's why it comes into a prayerful mode, and that's why I have that graphic up there to remind us that GLUE is God's love undoes everything. Not that it will tear it apart, but that whatever is torn apart will be sewn back together through God's love. So that's how I created Glue Wednesday. And so if this is your first time on, welcome aboard. I always come on early because that gives Facebook a chance to let everybody know, hey, Sporty's on live. You ever, you had it on your calendar that you were going to check somebody out live, and then goodness, you're not sitting there waiting for it. You're doing something else. Life goes on. It always kills me when people seem to act like they want everybody's full attention. You don't get everybody's full attention. I think as a speaker, your job is not to have your audience's full attention, because if you have their full attention, that means you aren't taking them anywhere. As my calling as a speaker is to take you on a journey through my stories or whatever I share, to where you'll see how that fits into your life. So if I'm going to be able to do that, then I can't expect to have your full attention. I need you to imagine through the words that I'm sharing. I need you to imagine how that works for you and how it makes a difference in your life. So that's why I say I don't worry about getting everybody's full attention. I come on early to give people a chance to say, oh, okay, yeah, let me close down my stuff and get on so I can enjoy the message. Because whether you're watching it live when it's originally broadcast, or, if you're watching it on the video, the message is still the same. And the message is just as powerful. Because that's what it's all about. So anyway, I always come on, 5 minutes early to get a chance to build it. Let's see how much time we've got left today. We've got less than 3 minutes to go for today's message. To start today's message if you do get on early. So that's what I'm doing. And meanwhile, that also gives me a chance to introduce it to people who aren't familiar. So one of the things that I did was last year when the pandemic hit, I expanded my Glue Wednesday to include Monday and Friday. So I was doing a live broadcast Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Right now, what I did is, and those were usually 30 to 45 minutes. So what I've done now is I've changed that to where I just I do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday still. But what I do is Monday, I do a 2-minute message, inspirational message called the Monday Morning Moment. Friday, I do an 8 to 12-minute message called the Gift Friday. And then I keep this one so that I can do this. So I can give my shout outs to my friends and family as they come aboard. What's going on, Roger Carroll? Yup, Sporty O here. And man, you know what I learned last week, Roger Carroll? That what I see now on the screen is how the shout out blocks out the words in the slide. So I'm going to be more conscious of that this time, and see, therefore, boom, I can take it out. But that's the thing, and I don't say that's, oh my God, he doesn't know what he's doing. No, come on, y'all. When we learn something new, technology, we're always learning something new about technology. That's what it's about. So when you learn something new, how about sharing it? I know some people say, well, I don't want to share too much because then people don't need me. Man, people always are going to need you. That's the way you have to look at it. And the people who don't need you, you can't get through to them anyway. So let them go. Move on. Let them go. Move on. So we've got less than a minute for today's message. And so another reason I was giving you the etymology of Glue Wednesday and my other days, because what we did is now I took away Monday and Friday. Instead of doing a full glue message, I've cut those down. And so what I did to do that, while we were doing that though, to come up with a message every day, I created what was called the GAS series. And that's the GAS, the Glue Alphabet series, where each time we would go by the alphabet. And so therefore, Therefore, we would go by the alphabet. People would tell me, we would have a featured letter, and people would put word. We say next week the featured letter is going to be boom, and so people put words in the thread that they want that begin with the next featured letter, and it was my job to weave those into the message. And so that's why we called it the alphabet series, because each week we would have a different featured letter. So then, but again, coming on early, I can get these shout outs in there. Yep, yes, Roger Carroll. Yeah, and you didn't tell me, but that's okay. But, you know, so we got two ways of looking at things. One, you can let somebody know, but two, wow, shouldn't you be checking up on yourself? That's what we got to do. And what's going on, Martha? Coming in. All right, I see it. This is good stuff. Yes, it is. It's always good stuff. Thank you so much. All right. So anyway, so the gas series is the glue alphabet series. So we kept that, but instead of me doing a broadcast on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, now I just do glue Wednesday with a gas series, but everybody will still be able to put a letter in the feed. So last week our letter was W. But we're not going in the order of the alphabet based on something we did earlier. So our dropped-in letter last week was the letter X. So we're going to be featuring the letter X today. But also, I want to let you know that next week the letter will be Y. So at any time during the broadcast, if you want to think of a word with the letter Y, you can just type that into the thread, and I'll get it into the message next week. All right? But today, we're going to get started because we're going to feature our letter X. And so what I do, so like as I said, so people who have dropped things in the feed, that's what I'm going to use. But what I did today is, instead of calling these people my co-authors, today I'm going to be the co-author. Today I'm going to be the co-author. And here's the people that I will call my authors today for the letter X. And I'll tell you why in a minute. And it's going to be Roger Carroll, who gave me the word Xenophile. Victor Morris gave me Xerox. Ramona Hopkins gave me X Factor. And Nafisa Mustafi gave me Xenus. And so the reason I'm going to call myself the co-author this time and make them the authors, because number one, our message today is called The Choices in Our Voices. The choices in our voices. And what I decided to, instead of creating a message and weaving their words into my message, I've chosen to create the message about the words that they gave me. And so I call it my putting the cart before the horse this week message. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with that term, the expression putting the cart before the horse is an idiom or a proverb used to suggest something that is done contrary to a convention or culturally expected order or relationship. A cart is a vehicle that is ordinarily pulled by a horse. So to put the cart before the horse is an analogy for doing things in the wrong order, and that's according to Wikipedia. The phrase was first recorded in England in 1589 in George Puttenham's The Art of English Poesy. Poesy, P-O-A-C, is pronounced poesy, which is an evening of music and poetry. And what he said in that evening was, we call it an English proverb, the cart before the horse, but the Greeks call it hysteron proteron. The Greeks call it hysteron proteron. Now, hysteron proteron is a figure of speech in which what should be last is in fact put first. So we gotta get some learning in here too, right? So one of the sentences we may tend to hear about putting the cart before the horse is how some people will so often say, I think you are putting the cart before the horse by leaving your permanent job before getting a new one. And you can find other samples of that on a site called Idioms, the idioms.com. That's where I chose that one from. And sometimes, a lot of times, don't people say that? You're putting the cart before the horse by quitting your job before you get the new one. I put that one up there because that's a very big truism, and we've got to be conscious of that. Think about the moves you make before you make them sometimes. A lot of times we have to do things on a whim, but guess what? If you're good at knowing who you are, if you understand yourself, if you've put yourself in front, then when things come up, you'll make the right moves. So what I do is I'll take you first to one of my authors and a conversation that we had about what are called cultural references. Nafisa and I are in a humor studies group together, and within our group of 8 people, this is through the AATH, the Association of Applied and Therapeutic Humor, and in our group of 8 people, we've got 4 countries: Canada, Indonesia, the UK, and the United States. And when you break down the United States, we've got 5 states: Arkansas, Indiana, North Carolina, North Dakota, and Texas. So I'm sure that you can see at least, or that you can at least imagine, that these 4 countries and 5 states have differences. I want to take the time to ask you right now to go in the thread and put down some of what you think some of the differences are between our 4 countries and 5 states. Now, I'll start you off with one of my ABCs. So obviously we've got different accents, different backgrounds, wear different clothes, and you can still use the A. You don't have to stick with going what's with a D and an E. What are some differences that you think that we have? Just go on and put those in the thread, and I'll hold on. Even if you're watching the video, put it in the thread, because there's always a little time lapse in there, and it's a great thing for you to be able to see, okay? But I'd like to see some of the differences you think that we have. Roger Carroll, the choice in humor. Humor choices, great, thank you. Yeah. And you know how they say you can't make this stuff up? You know, a lot of times we tend to hear people say that when it's something that doesn't go well, you know, say, oh, look at what these fools are doing. You can't make this stuff up. You can't make this stuff up. What I'm saying that is because Roger Carroll, thank you, you know, so on point with what my message is today. And we didn't rehearse, but you can't make it up when you have the right synchronicity. And one thing you'll always hear me say, and you'll hear me say today, is choose your messengers carefully and recognize that you are carefully being chosen as a messenger. So how in tune are you with your messengers? That's why I thank you when you come on the broadcast, because then we become one another's messenger. Yes, one another's, because it's the sharing. It's what Martha said earlier when she said, this is good stuff. See, that's what a messenger does. A messenger delivers, and then the messengee receives, and that's what makes it good stuff. All right, so thank you. So the humor choices are different. All right, okay. So let me give you the definition. Cultural reference is something done in your country that may not be common in another country. Therefore, it's a reminder, especially when using humor. And sometimes I don't read my notes, sometimes I do, but this one I want to say, because again, Roger Carroll, thank you. Especially when using humor, you have to explain and familiarize your audience or others when you're using certain cultural references in your humor or in your everyday communication. Yet also important, it's also important when you're trying to have the types of conversations that we need to have around the world regarding peace, racism, and social injustice. What we have so far been likely to experience are heavy doses of xenophobia, which is not one of the words that my authors have volunteered, but I want to bring that up because xenophobia, I found a mild, and I know it, but a mild and more used definition as it being the fear of strangers, or fear. It's a broad term that may be applied to any fear of someone who is different from us. Yet, what I've decided to do today, I like to use the stronger, more fear-evoking definition of xenophobia, and that is excessive fear, dislike, and even hostility toward anything foreign or to anything and anybody from outside one's own social group, nation, or country. Can you see how much stronger that definition of xenophobia is? And that's why I decided to use that, because the second definition, what it does is help us be even more appreciative of my author Roger Carroll, her word, which was xenophile. And a xenophile, it's a noun, and it's an individual who is attracted to foreign peoples, manners, or cultures. And see, that's why I chose to give that stronger definition of xenophobia, because it's someone who pushes away cultural differences, versus a xenophile is someone who welcomes it. If we're going to have conversations about peace, racism, justice, or injustice, we've got to be willing to pull in and look forward to hearing about what's going on in another culture, how someone else's mannerisms are, and what they tend to think. The world we must choose to live in needs xenophiles. So ask yourself, how are you adding to this world? And you may not have tangible examples, yet the key is whether or not you're open when the time comes. When it's your turn to show who you are, what will you do? When is it, it's just like they say, if you see something, say something. Well, do you? Okay? But a friend of mine, Tracy Brown, has a Facebook page called What Is Mine to Do? And it's in response to race-based hatred and violence, with a further mission to encourage the move from awareness to action. See, that's the key, a choice in our voice. You got to go, you want to get aware, but now what are you going to do? So that was my question. What are you doing to be one of the xenophiles? How are you adding to what we need done? And that's, by the way, if you're on Facebook, it's a good page to go and check it out, okay? But what mine to do? And then I think that rolls us into another one of my authors, Ramona's word, which is X Factor. Because X Factor already has and continues to be in play here. You see, the X Factor, number one, the X Factor does not have to be hyphenated. It is a noun with two definitions that I like reading out loud, and then use them in a sentence. The first definition, it's a variable in a given situation that could have the most significant impact on the outcome. The second definition is that it's a circumstance, quality, or person that has a strong but unpredictable influence. And to use it in a sentence, the X factor, the young vote may turn out to be the X factor, was a quote that was used back in November 2020. Actually, it was used earlier than November, but it was used throughout the presidential campaign season. And so I chose to show that because, in fact, the X factor did turn out to be the young vote. According to an April 29th, 2021 article, which was updated from November 2020 by a group CIRCLE, CIRCLE, which is the Center for Information and Research on Civic Learning and Engagement. And their site is circle.tufts.edu. Okay, but you can just Google CIRCLE. Actually, I'll drop their site in the thread when this broadcast is over. But what they said is that our analysis of youth voter turnout nationwide finds wide variation between states and underscores the importance of electoral laws and policies that help grow voters. We estimate that 50% of young people ages 18 to 29 voted in the 2020 presidential election, a remarkable 11-point increase from 2016, where it was 39%, and likely one of the highest rates of youth electoral participation since the voting age was lowered to 18. Our new estimate is based on newly available voter file data in 41 states. You see, 10 states do not have reliable vote history data by age. This analysis replaces our earlier estimate, November 2020, released immediately after election date, which estimated a 5 to 11 point increase in youth voter turnout compared to 2016 based on data available in that same moment. Our estimates of youth voter turnout rates in more than 80% of states are in some ways a tribute to young people's commitment to political engagement and action in 2020, and their impressive ability to navigate a changing electoral landscape during a global pandemic. And I decided to just put that sentence up because you know what? I just don't hear or see sentences like this posted enough using the words tribute and commitment when we're talking about our youth. So I thank those of you who feed positively into the lives of our young people, who have a tribute to young people's commitment. Because they're not going to have to take over the future. They have to continue taking over the present. You see, the Bible in Ecclesiastes 1:19, it says, what has been done will be done again. What has been done will be done. Oh, what has been will be again, and what has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. So we're not living in the new normal. I say that we're living in the now normal. What are you doing now that helps you relax and know that you've done your part? Your peace of mind makes a difference. So what are you doing now that helps you relax and know that you make a difference, and that you've done your part? That becomes a key. You see, another friend of mine, Tony Porter, is co-founder of an organization called A Call to Men. My author, Nafisa's word is Zena, which is actually a noun, Zenas, and it's a noun which is plural for a tough, physical, confident woman. I mentioned A Call to Men first because their mission is, and call is, to respect women. Xena is a fictional character from Robert Tappert's Xena Warrior Princess franchise. Co-created by Tappert and John Scullin, she first appeared in the 1995 to 1999 television series Hercules, The Legendary Journeys, before going on to appear in Xena Warrior Princess TV show and subsequent comic book of the same name. Then Xena of Amphipolis, also known as the Warrior Princess and the Destroyer of Nations, was a legendary figure in ancient Greece and throughout the known world. As a warlord, she was at the head of one of the most ruthless and destructive armies that the world had ever seen. After being redeemed by Hercules, she attempted to walk a path of redemption, and she became renowned as one of the greatest heroes of the time, traveling to places such as India and Egypt, fighting for the greater good. Fictional or real, respect is the greatest power that you can give to support the women and people in your life. And so I call on my final author, Victor, and his word, Xerox, because of the power actually of Xerox's misuse. First, its roots. In 1906, the Haloid Company was founded in Rochester, New York, to manufacture and sell photographic paper. In 1947, it acquired the license to Chester Carlton's basic xerographic patents from Battelle Development Corporation and sold the first xerographic copier in 1950. In 1958, the company changed its name to Haloid Xerox, and then 3 years later to Xerox Corporation. The Xerox 914 copier, introduced in 1959, was an outstanding success, and the Xerocopy technology catapulted the company into the major leagues. And it's also connected to Xena and her Greek origin. You see, the name Xerox means dry writing in Greek. The word zero, Xero, means dry, and graphy means write. Carlson's invention used a dry granular ink which replaced the messy liquid ink of the times. Xerox has been a reputable brand and has made its brand clear and strong to the market. Saying Xerox instead of photocopy shows that the brand has made it to its retention, and that people already know the brand, and people are actually the ambassadors. Remember, we learn through repetition. Success is through repetition. We're chosen as messengers every single day by somebody. Someone is copying you as a messenger. What message are they sharing when they choose you? Please choose to add up all our X's and see that our collective voices are making a difference. Change does not happen overnight, yet it does happen over the nights. And that's why we have to realize that there are choices in our voices. Thank you for joining today's message. Look, next week we'll be focusing on the letter Y. But before that, on Tuesday, July 6th at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern, I'll be getting together with a handful of friends on Zoom and broadcasting live on Facebook with a demonstration of how my passing thoughts cards can be used as a fun and meaningful game. Please put that on your calendars. But most important, don't forget to keep glue in your lives. GLUE. God's love undoes everything. I'm Sporty King. Be sure to catch this and always any of my broadcasts here on Facebook or on my YouTube channel, where you can subscribe and the messages are right in order, so you can binge on me if you like. I certainly like to do that, but I binge on God more importantly, and I binge on you because we are all good. So it's goodness and a nice. Sometimes Roger Carroll. Sometimes you just have to start with a blank screen. That's what one time I had a presentation and I clicked and my screen came up blank and I was expecting words, and that's what I started, and that came to my mind. Remember what I said about what will you do when your turn comes? If you know who you are, you'll react the best way. And that's what the message was to me when I saw that blank screen, is that every day we get to start with a blank canvas. So every day you get a chance to thank God for what he does. And you get to start with a blank canvas. Learn something new on a daily basis and on a moment-by-moment basis. Because what you learn has to be shared. Who does the sharing is not always you. Because once you share, someone takes your message and they share it with someone else. That's another reason why we always have to see ourselves as an important piece of success in everybody's puzzle. Life is about going from one puzzle to the next. You're either a small, medium, or large piece of the puzzle in everybody's social, business, or family interactions. But the key is whether you see yourself as a small, medium, or large piece of the puzzle. Without you, the puzzle is called incomplete. Thank you. God bless you. And keep your piece of the puzzle rolling. All right? Let's see what you said there, Roger Carroll. I put up an emoji that didn't show up. Ooh, and then sometimes your emotions don't show up. Isn't that something? See, everything is usable, y'all. Try to keep, no emotion is wrong. Try to keep yourself positive by every time you see something. And, remember we put the cart before the horse? Sometimes you just have to turn things around and look at them another way. Because your way of looking at it is what's going to help someone else change their viewpoint and their perspective. because it's not all the same. Goes back to what I said earlier also about you can't have everybody's attention 100% of the time. There's so many little nuggets in our lives, y'all. Drop the nuggets and let the seeds grow. Again, thank you. God bless you. And I'll see you next week. Over and out. Ciao.